Yes, thank you, Tony. I would like to start to thank you for inviting me in this perfect panel. I'm happy to say that I don't agree with any of the other panelists, and that's good for a discussion, I think. We're not talking about an economic issue here. This is, I think, that we have to bear in mind. The report, the Draghi report of 400 pages is, of course, impressive and intimidating. And if you have read it, you may think that this is a story about economics, but it's not. Let me illustrate this. It seems to many that Winston Churchill, which is, of course, a big example for the European Commission, and they quote him all the time, said once, well, not everybody agrees, but people think that he said once, never let a good crisis go to waste. We're talking about risk management here. And Draghi is creating a crisis. And I think he's doing this very cleverly, because we used to have a climate crisis the last couple of 5 to 8 years. And of course, people got tired of the climate crisis. So once in a while, you have to change your crisis. And now we have an economic crisis. And how did I come to think of it? Because I come from the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, we have an immigration crisis. At least our new government likes to think so. But the opposition is fighting this notion as hell. It is not an immigration crisis, and this, well, they debated on it 24/7 all the time, if it's a crisis or not, and if it's a crisis, what kind of crisis is it? So this is politics in the EU. Angela Merkel, she said that at the immigration crisis, we are shoving us. And Draghi once said at the euro crisis, whatever it takes. Well, that was his answer, to save the euro. So this tells us one thing. If politicians use one-liners to manage a crisis, you better beware. So to prepare myself for this event, I read the Draghi report, not the whole 400 pages. My husband is a journalist, and he said, if you need so many pages to send a message, then you have probably nothing to say. But okay, he's a journalist. I do think that we have a problem in Europe. We are lagging behind. The productivity is lagging behind. People don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore. Young people want to have quality time at home. Nobody wants to work anymore. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit. But to make a long story short, Draghi states that the EU is lagging behind because of overregulation. He really tells us so. High energy prices, yes, true. And geopolitical developments. Unfortunately, we have this thing in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East. And of course, we have upcoming competition from China. They bought all our stuff, they copied it, they improved it, and now we are in big trouble. In his foreword, he reminds us that Europe has fundamental values. And these fundamental values, you can read it if you want. It is really, to me, it's rather strange as a banker and an entrepreneur, that his fundamental values are prosperity, equity, freedom, peace, and democracy. You know, a democracy, okay, it's a fundamental value. And freedom, okay, it's a fundamental freedom. Peace, I think, is the main objective of the EU. And prosperity, well, this is not a value, this is an outcome of hard work, right? But he explains to us that these are all European values, and we are now in an economic crisis, and if we don't address this economic crisis, then these values are going to waste, and we will lose everything. And most importantly, the EU will lose its reason for existence. So in this 3 lines, he makes the economy instrumental to the existence of the EU. This is the real objective. So now we're running around talking to each other about economics. Are we in a crisis or not? Just like in the Netherlands, by the way, so this is a déjà vu. But the real issue is, what is the narrative of the European Commission? Why are they doing this? Why do they want to make us look like we have a crisis, feel a crisis? What's going on? Well, to begin on the positive side of Draghi's report, because it's not all nonsense, I think, we do have a problem. He says we have a huge problem because Europe is lagging behind. But by the way, there are some positive things going on as well. More women in the labor force. What does he say? We had the luxury of peace. The last couple of years, because America was paying for our safety. So we had a lot of good things going on, and the Chinese were buying our machines and automotives from Europe. So we had a real good time in the last 20 years, but now it's all changing. And his answer to this change is that he says, we have a change, and we're in a very difficult situation. He calls it a crisis, and he says, yes, we have too much regulation, but this too much regulation comes from fragmentation. So there's only one thing to do. We should harmonize, centralize. Yes, we have an economy that's lagging behind. There's not so much growth going on. This should be changing because of our geopolitical crisis, which I'm addressing after this. So to get this economic growth going on, we need capital. Yeah. But as a banker, I know, and certainly as a business banker, I know that capital is never the problem. Never. And we spoke about this a short while ago. A good plan is the problem. You know, if you have a good plan, if you can convince investors that you have a good business, there is always money. You know, so this capital market thing is a fantasy. It's a created fantasy. There is no capital crisis. There is no need for capital. There's a need for good plans. And of course, the European Union has no plan. This is the problem. They have no plan. They only have rules and regulations. And their rules and regulations are for making a one supranational state. I thought I was a banker, but when I entered this panel, because I'm changing my whole presentation, I realized that I'm much more a politician than I thought I was. But, of course, low energy prices are needed for sound businesses. And peace and stability are needed for economic growth, right? But the answers that he gives is, well, we need stability and safety, so we need to invest in the military. And I'd say, no, that's not a good plan. And he says, we have too many rules and regulations, so we need more EU rules and regulations, then we have less. But I've been in the European Parliament, I know what's going on. If you harmonize, they start always with, you know, we're going to harmonize. We have 27 rules, then we make them into one. But this one extends and extends and extends, and it becomes far more complicated than the original 27. So his answer to the problems of a changed geopolitical environment, too less economic or low economic growth, and high energy prices are simply wrong. So, but why are we discussing them? Because we are a little bit stupid ourselves too, right? Because I think we all agree that this approach of Draghi is, his analysis is somewhat right. We do have a problem, but the remedy is wrong, right? Now I have to really move on. When I sat there, these stories looked so long. I think we need to look at energy prices. So I want to ask you to imagine that a business is a plant. And like a plant, a business needs light, energy, it needs nutrients, and it needs space. And the space is less rules and regulations. The light is low energy prices, and the resources is low labor prices, low capital available, etc., etc. So this is something that if this is available, then the plant will grow if it is able to grow. So if it's a good plant, it will grow, and if it's not a good plant, it's unhealthy or whatever. Even in these circumstances, it will die. And well, that's how businesses do. They grow or they die, and that's it. What the government should do is to be the gardener. This is the narrative. The government should be the gardener. The EU should be the gardener. And this means that they have to enable the plant to grow. They have to create circumstances, low energy prices, no regulation, no taxation, to really make it possible for plants to grow. Well, this is, I think this is very important. Why do I, and I finish now, but why do I give you this narrative? I think that what the European Commission does is they're trying to create a European superstate with a fiscal unity. I have some notions why. I think I know why. They've never said it to me, so I cannot say it out loud. But I think they want to be like America. And it has something to do with the dollar. And they're trying to get there by fiscal unity and one European state. And what we should do is explain this to the audience and create a narrative of our own to make Europe the wonderful place that it ought to be. Thank you.